The year was 1950, and America was hungry for something new. The war years were behind, the economy was booming, and the suburbs were filling with young families chasing the American dream. People wanted more than just cars that worked, they wanted cars that defined who they were. Into this world rolled the Chevrolet Bel Air, a car that would change everything. From the first moment it appeared, the Bel Air stood out. It wasn't just another car, it was style on four wheels. Its chrome sparkled under the sun, its body lines looked modern and bold, and its two-tone paint made it instantly recognizable. This was a car built to turn heads. It was not just transportation, it was personality parked right in your driveway. The Bel Air didn't try to be just practical, it wanted to be glamorous. Families who had once been satisfied with modest sedans suddenly dreamed of rolling into town with fins and chrome that made them feel like Hollywood stars. In a way, the Bel Air became a bridge. It brought luxury styling to everyday people. You didn't need to be rich to feel like royalty, you just needed a Chevy key in your hand. This was America in motion. Teenagers cruised main streets in Bel Airs, showing off to their friends. Parents proudly loaded the trunk for vacations, knowing neighbors would stop to admire the shine. Couples went on first dates with the glow of neon lights reflecting off chrome bumpers. In every way, the Bel Air wasn't just part of life, it became the background of American life itself. By 1955, the Bel Air exploded into true superstardom. The new design was stunning, clean lines, a powerful V8 engine, and styling that made it the envy of every other car. This wasn't just a vehicle, it was the symbol of the 1950s. Car magazines called it a classic in its own time, and even today, that 1955 Bel Air is remembered as one of the most beautiful cars ever built. The timing couldn't have been better. Rock and roll was taking over the airwaves, drive-in theaters were packed, and diners with jukeboxes became the heart of youth culture. And there, right in the middle of it all, was the Bel Air. Young people adored it. It was the car that fit the soundtrack of rebellion and freedom. Songs played louder when heard from inside a Bel Air. First kisses under the stars somehow felt bigger when a Bel Air was parked nearby. It wasn't just teenagers who fell in love. Parents trusted it, families relied on it, and Chevrolet dealerships couldn't sell them fast enough. The Bel Air had somehow managed to please everyone. It had power but also practicality. It had beauty but also reliability. It was flashy, yet it didn't feel out of reach. It was the car that seemed to promise, this is your America and it looks good. Other car makers tried to compete, but the Bel Air owned the streets. It didn't matter if you were pulling into a diner in a small town or cruising down a palm-lined boulevard in California, the Bel Air was the king. Its influence went beyond roads. It appeared in movies, TV shows, and even advertisements that celebrated the dream of the perfect family life. The Bel Air was not just a machine. It became a cultural icon, a rolling piece of art that captured the spirit of a decade. To see one parked was to see a snapshot of the 1950s. It carried joy, hope, music, and ambition in its polished body. It wasn't about where it took you, it was about who you became when you drove it. And as the 1950s went on, the legend of the Bel Air only grew stronger. It wasn't just a car of the moment. It was becoming something bigger, an eternal symbol of a golden age. By the mid-1950s, the Chevrolet Bel Air wasn't just popular, it was everywhere. You could hardly drive through an American town without spotting one gleaming under the sunlight. It was the kind of car that made people stop and stare, whether it was parked outside a diner or rolling slowly past a crowd. The Bel Air had become more than a car, it was a fashion statement on wheels. Part of its magic was timing. America in the 1950s was bursting with energy. Soldiers had come home, families were growing, and people wanted to celebrate life. Roads were being built across the country, and the dream of freedom on the open highway was stronger than ever. The Bel Air perfectly captured that dream. With its fins rising proudly, its chrome flashing like jewelry, and its engines ready to roar, it gave people the feeling that the future was wide open. Young drivers especially loved it. For the first time, teenagers had spending power. They wanted cars that reflected their spirit, cars that looked exciting, cars that made a statement. The Bel Air delivered all of that. Boys wanted to show off its speed. Girls wanted to be seen riding in it. Cruising the strip in a Bel Air became part of Friday nights with radios turned up and headlights cutting through the dark. In many towns, the Bel Air was the centerpiece of youth culture, as important as the jukebox or the leather jacket. But the Bel Air was more than a toy for young people. It was also the family car that could do it all. Parents trusted it for cross-country vacations, where kids pressed their faces to the windows while the miles disappeared under wide new highways. It had enough comfort to keep long trips enjoyable and enough style to make every arrival impressive. For families chasing the American dream, the Bel Air became the dream itself, parked proudly in the driveway for all neighbors to see. Hollywood soon joined in. Movies and TV shows began featuring the Bel Air, cementing it as a symbol of coolness and modern living. Celebrities were spotted behind the wheel, adding even more glamour to its reputation. For fans, seeing a star in a Bel Air was proof that this wasn't just a car, it was the ultimate lifestyle accessory. It didn't matter whether you were rich or working class, owning a Bel Air made you feel like part of the new American story. Chevrolet also knew how to keep the Bel Air fresh. Every model year brought updates, tweaks, and improvements that kept it ahead of the competition. Other car makers tried to capture the same magic, but they often fell short. The Bel Air seemed untouchable, sitting on the throne of the 1950s automotive world. The 1955 model is often called the hot one, and for good reason. Its design became legendary, a clean, sharp body, a powerful V8 under the hood, and styling that felt futuristic yet approachable. Car enthusiasts today still call the 1955-57 Bel Air the Tri-5 Chevys, and they are among the most collected and celebrated classic cars in history. Back then, though, they weren't classics. They were the hottest thing anyone could drive. The Bel Air also became tied to music. Rock and roll stars were photographed with them, and songs about cars often carried the spirit of machines like the Bel Air. It became impossible to separate the sound of early rock from the image of chrome bumpers and shining tailfins. When Elvis Presley, the king of rock himself, was seen with Chevrolets, it only boosted the car's reputation as the ride of a new generation. But the true power of the Bel Air was how it connected people. For many, it wasn't about fame or power, it was about moments. First dates in the front seat, families heading to the beach, friends laughing as they cruised into the night. These memories burned into the hearts of Americans, and the car became the stage where those memories played out. By the end of the decade, the Bel Air was no longer just another car model. It was a cultural icon standing tall above its rivals. It was the king of the road, the symbol of youth, family, and freedom all at once. In every small town and every big city, the Bel Air had written itself into the story of the 1950s. And yet the story wasn't over. The Bel Air had ruled a decade, but its legacy was about to stretch far beyond the 1950s. What began as a stylish car had now transformed into an American legend. By the time the 1950s came to a close, the Chevrolet Bel Air had already secured its crown. It wasn't just a popular car, it was the car of the decade, the one that captured the spirit of its age better than anything else on four wheels. Other cars had power, others had style, but only the Bel Air brought it all together in a way that felt timeless. The Bel Air became the king of the 1950s because it wasn't just about driving, it was about belonging. It told a story of who you were, where you were going, and how good life felt on the open road. For families, it was the symbol of prosperity after years of hardship. For young people, it was the chariot of freedom, carrying them toward independence and adventure. For celebrities, it was an accessory of glamour, proving that even the rich and famous wanted what the everyday American wanted too. Its design made it unforgettable. The chrome details gleamed like jewelry, the two-tone paint gave it personality, and the tailfins hinted at a future filled with space-age dreams. The Bel Air didn't just sit in a driveway, it stood proudly, almost like a crown jewel. Even today, when one rolls past at a car show, people turn their heads the same way they did 70 years ago. That kind of power doesn't fade with time. The Bel Air also ruled because it was accessible. Unlike luxury cars that were out of reach for most people, the Bel Air brought style to the masses. It made families feel proud, teenagers feel rebellious, and owners feel special without demanding a fortune. Chevrolet had given America more than a car, it had given them a chance to own a piece of beauty. And that beauty was not just physical, it carried memories. It was the car you washed carefully every Sunday morning, the car you packed full of friends on summer nights, the car you drove to your first job interview or your wedding. It became part of people's lives, so deeply tied to their personal stories that looking at a Bel Air today feels like flipping through an old photo album. As the 1960s arrived, automotive tastes began to shift. Cars became bigger, faster, and sometimes wilder, but the Bel Air never disappeared. It transformed, adapted, and stayed in production for years, yet its legend always circled back to the golden 1950s. Collectors in later decades didn't chase every model. They chased the Tri-5s, the Bel Airs from 1955, 1956, and 1957, the very cars that had defined the decade and crowned Chevrolet as king. Why did the Bel Air become the king of the 1950s? Because it was more than a machine. It was a dream you could park outside your home. It was a car that didn't just move people across miles of road. It moved them emotionally, gave them pride, and helped define a generation's identity. No other car of its time left such a powerful mark on culture. And that mark has lasted. Today, at classic car shows, the Bel Air is still treated like royalty. Crowds gather around it, children point at it in awe, and older generations smile with nostalgia. Some even tear up, remembering the days when they or their parents once owned one. Time has passed, technology has changed, but the Bel Air still reigns as a king, because kings are remembered not just for power, but for legacy. In the end, the Chevrolet Bel Air wasn't just the king of the 1950s, it was the car that defined what that decade meant. It represented hope, prosperity, freedom, rebellion, family, and style all at once. It carried the laughter of teenagers, the dreams of families, and the pride of a nation looking forward to the future. And maybe that's why, even now, when a Bel Air's engine rumbles to life, it feels like the 1950s come alive again. It's not just nostalgia, it's proof that some legends never die. The Bel Air will always be more than just a car. It will always be the crown jewel of an era, the rolling king of the golden decade. The Chevrolet Bel Air didn't just rule the road, it ruled the story of a generation. And that's why, even today, it remains the king.